You know, everyone is focused on negativity, especially when it comes to Hello Neighbor. After the disappointment from over 7 years ago, the whole internet has constantly made fun of this indie game, going to the extremes like amplifying every bad thing the series has done. But this won't be another Hello Neighbor's bad video. As someone who extensively knows and cares about this franchise, I feel that I need to show at least some people that it isn't all bad. There is still so much love put into this franchise that goes completely unnoticed, since no other YouTuber puts their time into their generic critiques. So for this video, I want to share the best thing that has come from this franchise. A story spanning 3 novels, with impressive writing for a video game adaptation. A story that isn't appreciated enough and is just tossed aside. A story that actively warns about wandering too far, and failing to leave a trail behind, leading you lost forever. This is the story of the Hello Neighbor book series. Welcome back to the Amelia's channel, where today in this part 1 of 3, we will finally be covering the Hello Neighbor books, that being Missing Pieces, Waking Nightmare, Buried Secrets, and The Neighbor Notebook. And in this video, we'll be starting off with Missing Pieces. But instead of vaguely reviewing the books, I will instead cover their story and implications from beginning to end. Now I know instead of recapping all this, I could just say to people, read the books. But I don't think that would give enough attention to one of the best pieces of indie horror media. Also, along with covering each chapter of the books, I've also made some illustrations to help fill in some of the blanks, so that you could get the most out of this story. Now I'm still a beginner artist, so don't expect anything well, good. So after a whopping 6-month delay, this is my most ambitious video so far, and probably until the end of this year. So without any more time wasted, let's begin this recap with the history lesson. Alright, look, if your attention span is that bad, then just skip to the next chapter. Also, I have to say this because I do in every video, Patreon, link in the description, like and subscribe because this video took way too long and I lost so many hours of sleep. After the success of the novel Five Nights at Freddy's The Silver Eyes, Scholastic, who was the publisher of the book, knew that this endeavor into video games was going to be a massive success, so they greenlit another 2 books in the Silver Eyes trilogy, and ultimately formed the subsidiary AFK Studios, standing for Away From Keyboard. Wow, very clever, which solely focused on adapting video games into books, specifically indie horror. And honestly, it was a good idea. Kids would be able to enjoy their favorite media while also reading books. Hey, that's cool. And one of the first IPs AFK decided to cover was Hello Neighbor. I mean, besides the failed launch and the very adult content that was used in early stages of development, the franchise still piqued the interest of many kids around the world, and I should know, since I was one of them. TinyBuild and AFK eventually teamed up for a book trilogy based off the hit franchise, with it apparently being announced in August of 2018, with a long lost post on Twitter. And so most of us know that the books came out, and then they made like a bunch more. The series was written by Carly Annie West, who previously worked on 2 young adult novels, along with an unknown position at TinyBuild. From the looks of it, she's really the one who came up with the story. I mean, the basics like the neighbor's family did still originate in the game, but she was in charge of adapting the messy story, along with adding more details like the fleshed out story of the Golden Apple, while expanding the town of Ravenbrooks. Now honestly, coming up with their own interpretation of the story was probably not the best in the long run, since the game started to be really affected by her new ideas, but she still laid out a very intriguing story. And ever since these novels came out, she's went on to work on some Fazbear Fright stories, along with her own book series. Tim Heights is the illustrator for the books, and honestly, he was the perfect choice. His drawings and illustrations fit this world so well. He also worked on Wayside School, so no wonder why these are amazing. Also, I loved Wayside School as a kid, it was pretty cool. He also shared his original concept for the cover, and it has a heavy Wayside School feel, which I personally think wasn't the right choice, although the official cover is really good. Although something to note is that he originally drew the house very differently, with a mirrored layout and a more sharp exterior, a weird addition which would be reversed later on. And one final thing to mention is that the book would eventually be retold in the mobile spin-off game Hello Neighbor Diaries. And as some of you know, I already discussed this game beforehand, but from time to time, I may use some animatics to help illustrate the story. Alright, let's finally get started with the first installment in the series, which was released on August 28th of 2018. In the epilogue, we start off this story with Nicky monologuing about his grandma, who always cared about him, even if she was vocal about her concerns. Dreams and nightmares are also brought up, which will be very important in this trilogy. We are also foreshadowed one more thing that will haunt our protagonist till the end of the story. Stop wondering, boy chick, or one day you won't make it home. However, no matter the warning she gave, it all went down the day he met Eren. Oh my god! So fun fact, at the beginning of every chapter, the page will have this cool backdrop, which differs if either the chapter begins on the right or left page. So we kick it off with our protagonist, who just woke up and is moving out of their house, along with his family. Although he's sometimes nicknamed Narf, and his real name is Nicholas Roth, we will refer to him by his common name, Nicky. We learn that he's a bit of a mischief and a strange teen who zones out and stuff, but he's also the narrator of this story, as the book is written in his first person point of view. We are also introduced to his parents. First is his mom, Luann Roth. Although she's sometimes strict and demanding of Nicky, she still loves him. Jay's the cool parent, I guess. He jokes around here and there with Nicky, but at heart is still a great dad. We also learn that he's a newspaper editor who is struggling to maintain a job because no one reads newspapers. This has caused the Roths to move from house to house, while feeling less attached to each and every one of them, since they will eventually move out. So after packing up, the family moves to Raven Brooks, which is the official location of the Hello Neighbor franchise. I honestly can't help but think that our character moving into Ravenbrooks was a reference to the original Scrap storyline present in the early builds of the game. Or, you know, the writer just did this so that we could be well introduced into this town, you know? So the family moves to 909 Friendly Court, and Nicky's just not feeling it. And neither are his parents, who seem to be just like, I don't know, what the fuck ever. We're also given a bunch of miscellaneous facts, like the abundance of cats in the town, Jay's tree and feeling equivalents, and Nicky's interests, which I will summarize in this clip.
Oh, it's mostly video game based things. Sometimes they're just like figuring out the little intricate mechanics of different systems. Tear something down to its finest parts. Yeah. Build something anew from it.
So after some weird interactions with the neighborhood cat, and that pale uncanny face staring at him from the opposite side of the street, Nicky goes to sleep, and we get to hear the first of his many nightmares. Starting off with the grocery store, which is described to be just like the nightmare section from the video game, minus the annoying mannequins so far. The dream causes Nicky to wake up in the middle of the night, and spend it lockpicking like the weirdo he is. A scream interrupts him, and he presumes it's coming from the house next door. And in a strange interaction, Nicky begins to communicate with the face across the street. Don't you know it's not polite to stare? The ball pick was a good choice. Bored, I need something tougher. Come over tomorrow. Nicky then analyzes the strange house with the weird and withered form. But it doesn't matter. Parents have a secure job so far. Kid next door knows lockpicks, but there's a horrific scream in the middle of the night. But that's still 2-1, so this town's a winner. The next day, Nicky comes over to the house, where it is revealed that the kid across the street is named Eren. He's also 12, but is weirdly a bit more mature and soft-spoken. But they still share similar hobbies, mainly lockpicking and engineering. But we also get some information about the house's weird layout and design, which if you played the games, you would know is accurate, although Nicky describes it to me much more like the Act 3 house, with its strange and incoherent design, even though the house is in its basic form when this story takes place. I mean, something like the search and rescue residence is wacky, but at the time, this was based off the Act 1 house, which by Hello Neighbor standards is pretty basic. So the two meet up in Eren and Maya's shared room, where after almost saying a cuss word, Mr. Peterson appears, being described just like a cartoon villain, and honestly, I could see it. He kneels down and stares at Nicky as he asks him a small question. How would you like to stay for dinner? And then he laughs his ass off, so, okay. At dinner, we are introduced to the rest of the family, that being Eren's younger sister Maya and their mother Diane. One cool thing I noticed about Diane is that she nicknames Maya Mouse and Eren Cat, which to me at least is a reference to hide and seek, where you're basically playing cat and mouse, or you know, the author just did this for the funnies. No, the family dynamic is actually like pretty reasonable and believable. Well, maybe with the exception of Mr. Peterson, as he's also there eating his burger. Very calm and nonchalant. Until Diane's remark of them being Petersons to the bone. You know what's so interesting about bones, Diane? Not all of them are necessary. It's true. It's remarkable what the human body can survive without. Pluck one out and the body keeps living. There's just one bone you can't live without. The funny bone. He bolts to Maya and starts being all goofy with her, but Eren and Diane are just not feeling it. After dinner, Aaron brings Nikki to the forest so he could visit the horribly guarded Golden Apple Factory, which is just abandoned. Aaron loves the Golden Apple candy, but gets all quiet when its closure is mentioned. The factory itself has no lights, a ton of rats, but also a lot of locked doors, which is a great place for a lock-picking duo. He shows our protagonist a few rooms, one of which containing a lot of machinery to dig through, which is perfect for the two engineers. On the way back through the woods, Nikki manages to spot an abandoned, somewhat burnt down amusement park. Nikki's already stoked to go and explore, but Aaron's just not feeling it, and starts to get almost mad when Nikki continues to bring it up. After a bit of back and forth, the two eventually go home, although Nikki is struck with curiosity. And when given the chance later that day, he decides to go with his mom to the university, where he goes to the library for newspapers while his mom picks up a book or some lame shit. He digs through the Ravenbrook Banner records before finding something related to the amusement park, tearing it out of the newspaper and keeping it in his pocket. The two shortly go home, where Nikki reads it in his bed, as it gives him enough information to explain what happened at the Golden Apple Amusement Park. Apparently, there was a malfunction from the massive rotten core roller coaster ride, taking the life of a young girl named Lucy Yi. In the article, many people share their mixed feelings on the park as we learn that some of the townspeople burnt it down after the tragedy. This also caused Golden Apples to cease production, and although the rest of the article is missing, Nikki can't sleep without thinking of the strange family and dreaming of the Ferris wheel rotting away with overgrown vines and skeletons making up the ashy floor. Dude, this kid's like 12. Why does he describe it so weirdly? Nikki and his dad go to the town square to shop for some clothes. That's it. Really, at this point, Nikki just wants to seem normal in this abnormal town. At the center, we are introduced to Jay's co-worker and his son, Enzo, who you'll probably recognize from other media he's in. Enzo guides our protagonist to the various shops and helps him pick what would become his iconic attire. And even though they're kind of forced to be friends, they do share some interests too. However, the center fountain catches Nikki's attention, as the top mural depicts two golden apples, with the plaque of Lucy Yi below it. Before our protagonist could zone out about it too much, the two end up going to the gamer grotto, where Aaron is spotted. Enzo recognizes him too, but gets all weird about him, even telling Nikki to watch his back around him. With a concerned expression on his face, Nikki goes home that day while still wondering why Enzo is so afraid of Aaron specifically. Alright, so I don't want this to be a complete recap of the story, so I'll put in my input on my thoughts. And probably one of my least favorite things so far is that Lucy Yi was revealed like way too quickly. Like honestly, a lot of the anticipation and mystery was kinda just I don't know, lost when it was revealed that Lucy Yi died, mainly since it was revealed so early on. It probably should have been revealed like halfway through, but at this point it doesn't matter. This book's like 7 years old. Nikki hangs out with Aaron today as they work on his fart machine. And to build this machine, they scour for parts at the Tillman market, where the owner, Miss Tillman, is described to be a complete weirdo. So far, every mention of her is just not in a good light at all. For example, she overprices her weird organic food, along with her snarky comments and her bitchy attitude. So the two spend all their money on candy bars just to... Yeah, I'm not reading that. I'm sorry. So, let's just skip over that. You know, Nikki goes back to his house and it's all cool. But strangely enough, he hears the sound of a drill that he brought over to Aaron's for helping out with the machine, and it's coming from Aaron's side of the street. Out of curiosity and wanting his thing back, he goes back to the Peterson house and makes his way to the basement door, but notices that it's guarded with locks and greasy handprints located on the edge, along with some of them even trailing behind claw marks. But as soon as he hears something coming from the basement door, he immediately books it out of there into his house. And stay with me, but somehow, from his room, he hears someone open the basement door and walk to the sidewalk, before retreating back. At first he thinks it's Aaron, but after deciphering the loud footsteps, he realizes that it was the man Mr. Peterson. And he's not playing around, oh no! Nikki has another nightmare of the twisted grocery store, before waking up and noticing a note hanging from the vine outside of his window. 8 PM, Llama Farm, don't be late. Apparently for the last week or so, Nikki and Aaron have been up to some mischievous works. You know, simple pranks like replacing creepy antique dolls' voices to be a bit creepier, and that one classic time when they launched dog from a mailbox at a man for revenge. But tonight will be their most daring journey, as Aaron wants them to steal a sign from the llama farm. Okay, I think watching dog shit was probably a much more offendable crime. But before the two break in, the two have some banter about Nikki always swearing to the aliens, which up to this point has been a major thing that Nikki has been talking about. So far, he's been swearing to the aliens a ton, which I think is most likely just a PG way to swear to God. Although, Nikki's worship of the alien gods has nothing on Aaron, who starts to act even more weird, with this time being at the mention of the locked up basement door on the side of his house, which is something that Nikki has always noticed about the house. But that doesn't stop them from carrying out their mission. So they sneak in Mission Plausible style, have some epic close moments like getting fooled by llama footsteps and forgetting which barn is important. Oh, it's so riveting. I wish you could actually read the book yourself. But after a close call with the farmer, they ultimately secure the poster. I don't, this chapter's kind of useless. Okay, I like these books, but, I don't know if I like this, especially when this came out when Hello Neighbor was the only game that released at this point. It's, okay, I know why it's to build up the characters and stuff, I know that. But there could have been, like, something else they could have done besides sneaking into a llama farm. I'm just saying, even though Farmer Llama is one of my favorite characters, unironically, it's kind of pointless. Okay. We get to hear more about Nikki and Aaron's fort in the factory. This is the main place where they test their lockpicks, feast from the stash of food they have, and watch a ton of movies that Aaron recorded on his VCR. But Nikki just has to kill the mood, and he questions Aaron on the fact that a lot of people are weird around him, especially Enzo. But he just makes an excuse that Enzo cares more about video games than, well, his friends. That night, they have a sleepover in Aaron's room, and it's all quiet, until he says something. Have you ever thought you were bad? Nikki tries to respond to this out-of-pocket question, but he himself just doesn't know either. Nikki's gut tells him that he does bad things, mainly wandering off too much, which always leads to him being punished with the same nightmare of the grocery store. But this question also makes him kinda put off, even thinking that Aaron did something really bad himself. But Aaron thinks that the worst of it is being happy when bad things happen. Although this out-of-pocket conversation and the mystery behind the Peterson family should make our protagonist very afraid of Aaron, Nikki still sees him as a friend, and then they get tacos, so it's all good. This book is starting to show its real intentions from here on out. The story is admittedly pretty slow so far, but as we'll see, the second half of this story is gonna get much more serious. And although awkward, the two's conversation and Nikki's thoughts seem kind of realistic for a 12-year-old in that situation. I'm not fully sold, but I mean, it's not out of line. But we have like 9 more chapters to go through, so we'll see. Nikki can't fall asleep that night as he thinks about the Golden Apple tragedy, and even imagining a scenario where he was the one who died. But suddenly, he hears a scream, similar to Aaron's, which obviously catches his attention. From his window, he notices that music is coming from the basement, somehow. But at this point, he's actively trying to disregard all the weird stuff that has happened in the house, along with anything bad the family could be up to. But he's still concerned for Aaron. So to make sure he's okay, Nikki throws a rock at his window to make sure he's up. After a couple airballs, Nikki throws one last rock at the window, which loudly cracks it. But somehow, Mr. Peterson hears that from the basement, and somehow, Nikki hears him running up and out of the basement door, even though he's currently outside the house. In the short amount of time he has, he quickly books it to the backyard and behind an oak tree, just in time before Mr. Peterson breaks open the door, which is somehow loud enough that Nikki hears it from the backyard and sees it too. What? Look, this scene could be really intense, but it's just so unrealistic, which completely takes me out of it. But anyways, Nikki's completely scared for his life, as he really doesn't want to be Hello Neighbor. Mr. Peterson scours the yard and makes it to the back, where a hole in the shape of a grave catches the two's attention. All Nikki could do is stand still as Mr. Peterson refills the grave, as he knows Nikki was up to something, but he just can't prove it yet. After some pondering, the man goes back into the basement, leading Nikki to hide in his room. The next day, Nikki gets another note outside of his window from Aaron, which says he's getting worse. But alongside that note, a golden necklace is also left there too, similar to the bracelet Lucy Yi wore. Nikki has to go to his mom's science fair fundraiser at school, Whoa. Although it's in the same building as the archive library with the newspapers, the event itself is still being held in a different and more fancy library. And since this has become his special interest, he sneaks down there before anyone can notice him. He finds a ton of newspapers, which gives many fun facts about the town and his block. We learn that the opening of the Golden Apple Factory led to a major economic boost for the town, which will lead to it becoming a massive brand, especially in Raven Brooks. So obviously they would capitalize on this, which would lead to the announcement and construction of the Golden Apple Amusement Park. Through the newspapers, he sees the development of the park and the hype surrounding it. It seems mostly positive, until Nikki's stopped by one of the newspapers with the caption that reads, "Park designed by local engineer Theodore Masters Peterson." So it turns out that the creepy AI-driven Mr. Peterson is a major player in the theme park industry. Over his many years, he's built multiple parks on multiple continents, with each new park bringing more innovative technology for the customer experience and rides. In an interview before the opening, Mr. Peterson states that his magnum opus would be featured at the back of the amusement park, hinting at a roller coaster. But before Nikki could read about the events of the opening day, his parents interrupt him, obviously disappointed that he snuck off. But before he leaves, he takes a couple more newspapers, which he eventually reads at home. There we find out that the magnum opus was the Rotten Core roller coaster, an absolute behemoth of a ride. However, due to a neglect in safety tests, resulted in the front car derailing, killing Lucy Yi. But a memorial of Lucy would take place in the park sometime later. Although unfortunately, this memorial ended with the park being burnt down by the citizens of Raven Brooks. The tragedy then led to Mr. Peterson's shitty past to resurface. Countless records of him being lazy with the safety inspections and safety features like emergency brakes, all because he thought that it halted the fun of the rides. This ignorance then led to many deaths and injuries. In the final newspaper, we get to hear about Lucy Yi herself, miscellaneous facts about her pet hamster and her love of the violin. But the most important revelation is the picture he finds of Lucy Yi, Maya, and Maritza, all in a trio with matching bracelets, forming the Inventors Club. Now, I know what a lot of Hello Neighbor fans are gonna think, so I'll be the one to say it. Maritza's a brother? So if you didn't know, Enzo and Maritza, who will become more important later in the book, originally had curly hair and dark brown skin, but in current media, the two designs have completely changed, with a more Italian background. Apparently this change happened when Tiny Build adapted the books to the show, and thus the franchise used the show's designs. Now, it's unclear if this was a design choice or they were just like whitewashing, but these are the official designs now, so I'm just gonna use them for the illustrations. Their designs in the books themselves would also change later on in the Aaron trilogy, with them retconning to the modern designs. Not the only retcon in this trilogy, but you know, that's a whole nother story. Tonight, Nikki goes to Mr. Peterson's house to have a sleepover with Aaron. We're after some back and forth with the family, which is honestly pretty good, but it's all ruined because the two kids then record audio for the fart synthesizer. Now, even though these kids are like 12 years old, it's not written that weirdly. And honestly, the kids' quips and laughs is just general childhood fun. But like, I really hate toilet humor, and okay. But then we get back to the good stuff, where Nikki once again has to ruin the atmosphere with an awkward conversation about Aaron's dad and the theme park he built, where Aaron offhandedly reveals that he was happy when his father's career ended, along with the life of Lucy Yi. Once again, he's guilty for being happy when bad things happen, referencing their prior conversation. They then go to sleep for the night. Nikki has yet another nightmare, leading him to wake up. And just like all of us, he could really go for a glass of water at this moment. But little does he know, this is at 3 a.m. gone wrong, because it turns out that he doesn't know the layout of the house. And since this is the Peterson house, there's creepy kids music and locked doors. And also footsteps. Oh, wait, what? Nikki quickly scurries to one of the only rooms that isn't locked, containing old decor and filled with papers. Countless pages of Mr. Peterson's designs, closed up lawsuits for Lucy's death, and finally, this. Newspapers of the park's construction, with the younger Aaron hiding in each photo, along with roller coaster blueprints, and pictures of the family becoming less and less happy by each photo, with the only thing connecting everything being the red circling of every image of Aaron, with each and every one becoming more bold and more angrily drawn, ending off with this specific photo, and the words, "Omen," being used to label Aaron. Nikki has stumbled onto something very, bad, something he should have never seen, and someone behind him reinforces this. Nicholas, you shouldn't be here, Mr. Peterson says, quickly laughs, then stops. He goes down to his level, inches from the kid's face, and says, "Night, night, Nicky," then blows the candle away. He immediately full-on sprints out of there, loudly going back into the bedroom, exclusively thinking about Mr. Peterson all night. So this is one of the best chapters easily. Although there's the whole fart machine, the characterization and quips are actually pretty good, and it honestly brought me back to the alpha days. Nicky has spent more time with Aaron, as his father has been appearing less and less, although today's the day the two use the synthesizer, with them meeting up at Aaron's. However, no one's home, so our protagonist goes through the house just because, and he's right behind me, isn't he? Aaron's not here. The door was open. I called for Aaron's not here. Nicky justifiably skedaddles out of there and meets up with Aaron outside. Although he's mad for having to endure that previous scenario, the two are still hyped for their prank on Miss Tillman for being a greedy fake asshole. At the store, Nicky distracts Miss Tillman to help find a gift for his mom, while Aaron goes to the back to control the intercom. And while she subtly bashes Nicky's mom for being book smart instead of street smart, which gives her more intelligence, little does she know that when she uses the microphone, her voice doesn't come on, but instead, fart, ooh, loud of the yeah, I don't care, this is my video. I'm replacing all the farts with a vine boom. So with a face like a ghoul, she tries to explain, but yet another vine boom comes on. Then while she's chasing a roll of wheatgrass, a group of little kids use it as an epic prank. However, Aaron's cover is blown in the office. The speakers start to crack as the kids start to do overtime on the microphone, ultimately leading the speakers to pop, effectively breaking them for good. Miss Tillman, like she is, pushes the security button and traps the two, with Nicky thinking, and I quote, "I look at Aaron, and his wide eyes confirm what I really wanted him to deny. We're cooked." Whoa, I didn't know Hello Neighbor was like hip with the kids, dude. In a cameo that completely shocked me, Keith from Hello Neighbor 2 appears. Now, although he probably was not created at the time of this book, it seems that his name was reused for the officer in Hello Neighbor 2, and was confirmed to be the same character in the Hello Neighbor Diaries spin-off. So, pretty cool. Also, he's sick of Miss Tillman constantly doing this shit, which is funny. After a quick examination, Keith orders the boys to pay up $5 grand for new speakers, with the two parents arriving quickly. Aaron is scared to death as he confronts his father, while Nicky is driven home while being scolded and being forbidden to hang out with Aaron ever again. Oh no! Nicky has been depressingly roaming his house for a week, and since his dad feels bad, he arranges him to meet up at Enzo's house, the kid from early on, just as a fun way to cheer up the two. Enzo lives in the richer part of Raven Brooks, with a nice house and an NES. The kid is a nerd, but he doesn't get embarrassed by himself and is just generally nice. However, we do learn why he's so weird about the Petersons family. Apparently, he and Aaron used to be friends when the park was still being built, with both their sisters and Lucy becoming best friends, and Mr. Peterson giving the title of the Young Inventors Club, along with the bracelet, to all three members. However, Aaron was weird, especially with the fact that he was terrified of his father. After the park's closure and tragedy, they grew more and more distant, until Mr. Peterson went too far after saying a single thing, which permanently kept the Epizitos away. In one of the hallways of the Petersons' residence, Mr. Peterson says to Maya, "Did you see Lucy fly? She looked just like an angel." I love how the book set up the neighbor to be a truly terrible person. The way he acts and the things he says are genuinely creepy, especially for a kid's book, which is probably some carryover from Carly Annie West's previous young adult novels. I think his character was pretty well executed, with one of his worst traits being that he never takes accountability, and especially being happy when bad things happen. To cure his boredom, Nicky sneaks into the Golden Apple Factory at night, where in one of the rooms, he stumbles on an old VHS tape. Which, Hello Neighbor Analog Horror, ooh, funny meme, I'm so relevant. It's just an old horror movie called Tooth 3, which was recorded when it aired on cable. Although Nicky almost turns off the TV before an ad for the Golden Apple Amusement Park comes on. Then afterwards, the screen cuts to a recording of Diane Peterson dancing in the living room as Maya records her. Aaron watches from the couch, while Mr. Peterson happily takes his wife's hand as the two gracefully dance with each other. Suddenly, Aaron messes up on the aux, and Mr. Peterson goes from happy to frustrated.
Why did you do that? I don't know. You know what you did. You do know, because you always know. You're always watching.
Diane tries to comfort her husband. Eventually, he storms out. Genuinely reading this actually made me feel a bit uneasy. Like, I forgot I was reading a book about Hello Neighbor, which shouldn't take away from this scene. Like this is the same man that we just read about. I was genuinely shocked because I forgot this happened. I forgot it was this detailed. Dare I say, it got an emotional reaction out of me. Now, it wasn't world altering, but especially with the fact that this is, you know, an indie game adaptation, it's pretty well written, all things considered. Nicky's sneaking out once again as he got this mysterious note, but this time, he's stepping into unfamiliar territory, the amusement park. The place is pretty creepy, especially with the fact that the carousel just turns on out of nowhere, but Aaron is nowhere in sight. In fear, Nicky wanders away and accidentally stumbles into the tracks of the Rotten Core roller coaster, which ends up leading him to a tree. The tree. The one that Lucy Yee's cart derailed into. Nicky's getting fed up and threatens to leave to whoever is stalking him. But deep down, he's scared. Scared that he'll never make another friend. In a turn of events, Maya appears from the bushes, as she says she's the one who wanted him to come here. He's getting worse. Way worse, Maya says. Although Nicky's too busy questioning her, while also telling her to take action like calling the police or just anything. But she doesn't flatter anything he says, ultimately disappearing back into the woods. That night, Nicky wakes up to another nightmare and a jump scare of the daily news flying to his window. But that's not what sticks with him. That morning, his parents read the newspaper too and try to comfort him, but Nicky just wants to keep it to himself. Local mother dies in tragic accident. Wife of troubled theme park designer dead in apparent car crash on Route 47. Diane is dead, a fact that is officially confirmed first in this book. This was hinted at in the original game, and would be set in stone in the events of Hello Neighbor Hide and Seek, which would come out a few months later after this book. Nicky goes to and hates every second of the funeral service, which is being held at the Petersons' household. We get to see a quick cameo of Mr. Peterson's sister, who only says one line. Things are still off in the house, especially with the fact that Maya isn't anywhere. I wonder why. Nicky goes upstairs and hopes to find Aaron, but he notices Mr. Peterson in his room, staring blankly into the mirror before pressing his face. He tries to scream, but his body just gives up. Aaron appears from the back, blankly staring. Nicky tries to question Aaron about his dad and Aaron's weird look, but he just says that he's quote unquote, I'm on top of the world. Why do you ask? Nicky is just completely confused and can't form a coherent response. Where's Maya? Now Aaron is the one stuttering with his words, but he's quickly interrupted by Mr. Peterson, requesting he tells everyone to go home. Time to go home. I didn't wait for him to tell me twice. It's not just a hint anymore. He's telling me in no uncertain terms he's got enough going on to deal with any of the drama I bring. Maybe two kids with a bunch of missing pieces don't make each other whole. The perfect machine with all its parts in place. Maybe they just empty them out more. This is my favorite title drop, and I don't know why. This scene and the way the phrase is said fits so well. The last thing we hear from Aaron is him warning his last friend. And Aaron, don't come back. It's been 2 weeks, and none of the Petersons have been in sight, even in their own house. But no one in town seems to want them anyway. Out of boredom, Nicky decides to go to the pre-high school prep rally with Enzo. Now, even though the two are in a middle school for, a high school prep rally, Enzo's really there just to meet up with his girlfriend, Trinity. Now, after the prep rally, they just get some in and out and, show off their personalities. Mainly since they will become the main side characters that we will follow in the upcoming books. At home, Nicky tries to finally communicate with Aaron, the same way he did the first night he met him. It's okay if you're not okay. He leaves that note there for the night and goes to sleep. Obviously, he once again has another nightmare of the grocery store, with it ending in him pleading to go home, just for the intercom to announce, "You are home," before falling into an abyss of endlessly reaching hands. He wakes up screaming, But nothing has changed in the house. Well, not his house specifically. Across the street, Aaron's window has an even bigger crack than before, with a note attached to it. Out of desperation for answers, Nicky goes across the street and climbs up the tree to the roof, where he grabs the note, which would unknowingly trigger a chain of events, leading Nicky to wander off too far and never finding his way back home. I make bad things happen. And we ended off with this paragraph. I stand there in the middle of Friendly Court, staring at Aaron's scrawled words, until the streetlight above me flickers, then gives up for the night, leaving me alone in the dark. And that was Missing Pieces. Now, although the beginning kinda slogs, the story really gets interesting as it goes on. Nicky is a fun yet sometimes unreliable narrator, and I very much appreciate the world building this book does for Raven Brooks. And so, that is the end of this video. Part 2 will be covering Waking Nightmare and the Neighbor Notebook, so stay tuned for that. As for now, like, subscribe, comment your thoughts so far, and if you can, support me on Patreon. Sweet dreams.